because that song is all about faith. You taught me I could fly. My vision of that, my understanding of that is that we're talking to God. The old story, the old God, talking to God. You told me that if I believed enough, everything would be okay. So how did this happen? You told me that if I believed enough, everything would be okay. I would rise above it all, and yet I haven't. And in the early part of the song, she talks about that. She sings about that. You told us as a people that if we just behaved and were good, we wouldn't experience what we're experiencing now as a world. So where did God go? What happened? Well, frankly, God's where God always was, in the hearts and souls of each and every one of us. And therefore, we are creating the world that we create. So the title of my talk today is Outbreak. And I gave them that talk title very early. I decided on it last week. And it's not about what you think it's about. It's really about this, and it's interesting because Tiffany said it. What we focus on expands. Do you all know that? What you focus on expands. It's no wonder that what we're going through right now is expanding at such an alarming rate. It's not the virus. It's not that little thing, the actual virus. I believe it's the mental virus that's going on in our world right now. I am much more concerned with the virus called fear than the virus called corona, truly. And I believe and that's also why I showed up today, because it is so important for us to combat this virus with our minds first, and everything else as well. But our minds first and foremost. That is where everything is created, in the mind. I had an occasion this week to be in discussion with some ministers about this teaching, about this science. And, what I understand is that this is called the science of mind. And by the very nature of Ernest Holmes calling this the science of mind, he instructs us to understand that science is an ever-expanding and growing horizon. It will constantly grow and evolve, and we will learn more and more and more. Therefore, the science of mind can never allow itself to be complacent in 1927 when he wrote a book. It should be 2020. What do we know about science now? What's going on now? That's the science of mind. What do we know about mind now, and how do we expand that in the face of all the spiritual truths this man taught us? We never lose the spiritual truth, but we will always know more. So, what you focus on grows. This is Ernest Holmes. What you think about expands, and what you dwell upon determines your destiny. What you focus on grows, what you think about expands, and what you dwell upon determines your destiny. Well, I can tell you that what most of the world has been focusing on the last number of weeks has been this thing that we're calling the coronavirus. That's what we have been focusing on. What are we thinking about? What do we think so much of the time? We're expanding that. And then what you dwell upon determines your personal destiny. So for me, I do not dwell upon, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? No, not at all. I know who I am. So I don't dwell upon that. So I'm here today to tell you, use your minds appropriately. Use your minds the best way you can. And I'm going to do this a little more scientifically today. This discussion this week that I had really prompted me to take a look at how I teach the science of mind, what I do. And it's interesting because someone sent me an email after that discussion who was a part of that discussion and said, it seems as if the world is still in kindergarten when it comes to the science of mind. And I do not mean this arrogantly, but this is what was said to me. It seems the world is in kindergarten, and you are trying to teach us a graduate course in the science of mind, and we're not ready for it. Well, I disagree. I don't think we are still in kindergarten. I think people think we're in kindergarten, so they don't bother to go to the graduate course. But you and I, we here at the Global Truth Center, our job is to stay in school and stay in the graduate school of mental science and know what's going on. So there's a thing called reticular activating system in your brain. Do you all know that? Okay, good. The reticular activating system. David Allen wrote this. He said, just like a computer, your brain has a search function, but it's even more phenomenal than a computer's. It seems to be programmed by what we focus on, and more primarily what we identify with. It's the seat of what many people have referred to as the paradigms we maintain. So this reticular activating system, the RAS is what it's called, filters the world through the guidelines you set for it. So I call it your AEP, your already established premises of life. That's what's going on in your brain. You feel that the world is a safe place. You see the world as a safe place in face of anything. I see something like this come along, and I don't go to, oh my God, I go to, this will work itself out for the highest and best. And I have compassion and love for anyone who's going through anything because of it. But I also know that when a forest fire happens, it is burning off what needs to be burned off for the growth to come back up. We have to understand what the world is all about and how it works in order to maintain our AEP, meaning my already established premise that the world is good, period, end of sentence. So the RAS filters the world through the guidelines you set for it. George Orwell, in 1984, his book, wrote this: we will come to learn that reality exists in the human mind and nowhere else. So you all may think that reality is happening all around you and you're a part of it, but in fact, reality is happening all around you based on how you've asked it to show up. That's how we do it, how you have asked it to show up. Your already established premise of life is determining how this all plays out in your personal life. Is there race consciousness? Yes, there is. Is race consciousness very heavily leaning into fear right now? Yes, it is. Does that mean you have to be sucked along with it? No, it does not. You may feel it. Do we all feel it? It's very easy to feel this. Has anyone walked into a grocery store? I was very distraught that oat milk was gone. However, I decided to keep looking, and I went to Whole Foods, where they charge twice the amount. I thought, I bet a lot of people won't go there, even in this case. So I went, and there was all of my oat milk right where I needed it. And it was not a big drive from Ralph's to Whole Foods. But it's interesting when you look at those shelves, all empty. What's going on? People are so afraid that they're just hoarding everything to make sure. For what? For the end of the world? I mean, yeah, I guess so. So if that's where your mind goes, and I have to say, Kevin woke me up, was it yesterday? Yeah, because you went to the store yesterday morning. I was sleeping. And Kevin came in and showed me these pictures of Ralph's, and I was like, what? What are you It never even occurred to me that people would buy all of the toilet paper. Now, the good news is we shop at Costco. We have toilet paper for a year at our house. And yes, you can borrow it if you need it. So, I know, as soon as I said it, I saw all your eyes. I was like, all right, I can give it out. Yes. But it is astounding, the race consciousness that's going on. And you get reinforced. Every time you walk into Ralph's, you're reinforced now. Because there it is right in front of you. It's staring you in the face. So is this a very powerful time for you to keep your mind where you need to keep it? Oh, my goodness, yes. Absolutely. You want to know the best way to keep the coronavirus away from you? Know it. Know it. Because that's where it starts. Yes, use your hand sanitizers. Yes, try to stay away from big groups of more than 250 people, they say. We are maybe 100 people here today, which is surprising me. We all took a poll. Is it your number? Yeah. We all took a poll. Is Joyce going to win this poll? Of how many people would show up today. And there's 91 people. No, you can't go over.
Wait, this is not The Price is Right.
And now, let me show you what's behind door number 3. A pig in a pool. Back to me. Okay. So, if your RAS shapes your reality and beliefs, you need to start taking control of it by priming it into focus on the things you want to attract in your life. If What's going on in your mind is creating your experience. You better be very careful of what you decide to create in your mind and how you react to everything going on in the world. What is your reaction? Are you spreading gossip? And it is gossip, all this stuff about this thing that's going on. The more you talk about it with other people from a place of fear, the more you're growing the fear. And the more you grow the fear, the more you inhabit the fear, the more you embody the fear, the quicker that thing that you fear is coming at you. It's the law of attraction, after all. So I know in my body, and even if I were to get it, it would come through me so fast. If I can face stage 4 cancer and say, not in my body, I can face the coronavirus or any virus or anything. We have to look at this not just as this. Let's use this as the microcosm for the macrocosm of pure health. You either know who you are or you don't. And if you think that you are susceptible, you are. And if you think you are not, you are not. For it is done unto you as you believe. That is the truth. So, am I susceptible? You know what? I think everyone is susceptible to the degree that they allow their minds to be susceptible. Therefore, I'd like to believe mine is in a very good percentage point right now. And I'd like to believe that about all of you. Tony Robbins says whatever you hold in mind on a consistent basis is exactly what you will experience in life. So I get it. We're all going to go off to the side occasionally and go, oh my God, did you hear about 2 of our friends, dearest friends in New York City? They caught this virus. They've been in their house for the last... They're probably watching today, of course, Richard and Michael, hello. But it went through them in less than 24 hours, I think they said, and they're fine. But they also said, probably most of Manhattan has it, given how we all live together so closely all over the place. He said, we're never going to know at this point. And who needs to know? Really, I know the government should need to know a little more than they do. But for me, I don't need to get caught up in numbers and who's got it and who doesn't and what's going on and what are we going to do about it. I need to stay steadfast in my belief that right where I am, God is. Period, end of sentence. That's where it starts. That's where we have to start. Ernest Holmes says this, and this is a beautiful affirmation. He says, I choose to focus on truth instead of the illusions of fear. I choose to focus on truth instead of the illusions of fear. Right now, the coronavirus is the illusion of fear that everyone seems to be focused on. When I put it in my talk, I refused to give it a capital letter. I decided I'm not giving it that much power to have a capital letter. Love gets a capital letter in my talks. Truth gets a capital letter. God gets a capital letter. That doesn't get a capital letter. That's just one of those things that we have somehow created in the world, a form that will come and it will go. So here's the question I have for you today. How are you focused on it? How are you focused on this thing? Where are you focused on this thing? I mean, you're all here. So obviously you have a little bit of a different feeling about being in a group of people than some other people may have. I love that Ann Monahan. Ann, would you just stand up for a minute? Ann, how old are you? Let's just say you're a woman of a certain age. 82. Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. So that doesn't mean if you're 82 and you chose to stay home that you're wrong and Ann is right. Not at all. I just want to bring to focus what Ann said to me when I called her about fellowship. I said, you know what? Let's close downstairs. It's a small area. We don't need everybody crowded into a room together, handing food out, eating food from plates. I said, let's not do that. I said, and Ann, I am saying if you are over 60, 70, 80, whatever age you feel comfortable, you can stay home and watch this. And she went, I'm coming to church. She said, I don't care how old I am. So she knows, just like someone who knows they should stay home should stay home, because this is going to unfold for you as you believe it. And if you are in that place right now where you have fear, act appropriately based on the fear you're feeling. I'm here to help alleviate that fear for you. Because if you step into knowing who you are, the fear has a way of subsiding and going away. So let's look at the word pandemic. Pandemic, an epidemic occurring worldwide affecting a large number of people. It comes from the Greek, pandemos, meaning pertaining to all people. So the word pandemic really, in spiritual terms, is another word for oneness. It's a pandemic because this thing has actually recognized that everyone is connected. There's something to take away from a pandemic, because let me tell you some of the other pandemics in the world. Diabetes is a pandemic. Do you know that? It is literally listed as a pandemic. Obesity is a pandemic. HIV is a pandemic. The natural flu is a pandemic, meaning that we experience all these things as one people. It's not relegated here or there. Why does something get to a pandemic level? Because it shows up everywhere, and therefore it includes all people everywhere. So what if we were just to take our consciousness around the word pandemic and stop hearing pandemic as such a horrific thing, and start realizing that in a world that has become so divided, in a world that is building walls in front of itself to keep people out and to keep people in a world that is creating boundaries, and this is mine and that's yours and mine, in the world that we have grown into, something has come along and said, you can build as many walls as you want. I still get to roam free among everything. That's what a pandemic is. That's what it's telling us. And it's actually, for the first time in, I don't know, maybe in my lifetime, all world leaders coming together on a phone call to talk about this. I say, bless you, coronavirus, for bringing these leaders together for any reason whatsoever, to stop making us separate and start realizing we're one people on one planet. So yes, this is something that needs to be handled. It needs to be respected, revered, and it needs to be dealt with individually and collectively, but it will leave in its math an understanding that we are one, that it's all God, and we are all one in this. So the reticular activating system that you work from has been influenced by a lot in your lifetime. I'm going to suggest you start really paying attention to using this RAS for your good. You know, what do you want to know? How do you want to see the world? How do you want to process what's going on in the world? Do you want to process it from fear? Do you want to process it from a place where you believe you can be a victim of something? Or would you like to process it from the truth that you are the divine mind of God in action, and that your use of this brain that you have can allow you a life that literally keeps itself in touch, one with all things, and yet in the driver's seat at all times? That's who we get to be in the face of this. I think it's important that we understand what we focus on expands, and that we stop focusing on the things that we don't want to expand, and we start focusing on what we want to expand. I think it's time for us to cause our own outbreak. I think it's time for you and me to create our own outbreak and then turn it into a pandemic. But the outbreak, my dear friend Al Wellen mentioned to me earlier in the week, right after Mental Muscle, he said, we need an outbreak of love. We need an outbreak of kindness. And I think we need an outbreak of knowing who we are. And if we were to have a pandemic of an understanding that right where I am, God is, and that goes for you and you and you and every person on this planet, if we started paying better attention to the planet as part of this beautiful thing called God, and we had a pandemic about that, instead of sections of people who are more interested in grabbing what they need for themselves, and understand we are one people on one planet doing one thing, and that is living life from the perspective of God. I say we create that outbreak, which is why there's a little flower coming up in that hand, by the way, going to that hand. So it's about here, I'm willing to touch your hand with this. It's called love. It's called knowing. It's called, like they said in Avatar, I see you because I see myself. And if I can see you, and I can see me, and I can remember that we are that same person, one people, And the pandemic that we will experience will be one of love, not fear. And that is who we are as a people. That is who the Global Truth Center is. And that is why I will be here every Sunday until they tell me I can't, speaking this truth. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.